Hi everyone, I'm meteorologist Mark Collins with your Tuesday weather update for the search taking place out in the Gulf Stream off of Jacksonville's coastline all through Florida and the Carolinas. Good news is the weather has held up. It's been really conductive for searching for vessels. There haven't been many thunderstorms, the winds have remained calm, and the seas are still very low as well. The bad news is that still those two firemen, they're missing, and there's very little clues, but there has been one clue that has come out in the media briefing, and that is that they found a tackle box which they believe belonged to the men. Some of the family members felt very certain that it is most probably one of those two boaters. Now when you take a look at the waves out in the Gulf Stream, they're about 2 feet there, and that is a little bit higher than yesterday. They were about 1 to 2 yesterday, so not much higher if anything, and right off the Jacksonville coastline they're 1 to 2 feet. So again, to familiarize yourself, that Gulf Stream, the swift moving current, could have picked up that boat and taken it anywhere from the Jacksonville coastline, possibly even up into the Carolinas now. And up along the Carolina coastline, that's how far this search is expanding, where waves are around 2 to 3 feet. Now we'll have some pretty decent weather with tranquil conditions and good visibility for aerial reconnaissance here right on through the weekend. However, next week it does look like the weather will start to go downhill and the window for search will be closing in. So hopefully they find these men here over the next day or a couple days. There are many boats out there. This is the latest AIS vessel tracking location, and you can see all of the various ships that use the automated information system to report their locations. This is usually not used by pleasure craft, the local boaters, but the bigger cargo vessels over 300 gross tonnage and some of the passenger vessels. You can see from this that there are several boats right out here out of the mouth of the St. Johns River and others out of Cape Canaveral Harbor there. Now, these are not necessarily looking for the crew, but they are out there, and if they see a vessel in distress, they will likely communicate that to first responders and the Coast Guard. So one thing that was interesting in the media discussion that the searchers talked about was this tackle box that was discovered very close to where they might have been fishing, and that would have been the shoals there off of Cape Canaveral. So this is the bathymetry seafloor map, and it shows about 5.28 miles to the shoals. That's the shallow water, and within the shoals, water goes from a depth of about 43 feet to 10 feet. And this was, if this is the vicinity where they were fishing, and the only clue now is that there was perhaps a tackle box in that area. This is also the area where that big squall line came through on Saturday evening at 6:30. And this is the buoy right here, this Scribs oceanographical buoy here in yellow, very close to the shoals. It's actually right there on the edge of the shoals. And the data reports back, and it was showing that there were 37 mile per hour wind gusts in that squall line. So this is the buoy just north of the shipping channel. So you can see the buoy and the navigational aid markers. This is the channel that all those cruise ships go through to get through those shallow shoal areas. Now, if a squall came through and those near 40 mile per hour winds jacked up on that 10-foot sandbar, that would have caused significant wave heights there. And it could have been that the waves got so big that maybe it did rock the boat and toss some of the fishing gear overboard. So if that is a clue where the boat might have gone into distress, then that means that it would have been on the inside of the Gulf Stream. And that's very important because within the western side of that fast-flowing river of water, what we call the west wall of the Gulf Stream, the currents are much slower. They're only about a half knot to a knot. And so that means that the search would be confined closer to the Florida coastline and perhaps anywhere from Jacksonville or Brunswick. Now, if they were fishing further out where this red is, this is actually the stronger part of the Gulf Stream where current water measurements, the velocity is about 4.13 knots. That means after 4 days, now they could be up over the Carolinas off of North Carolina at this point. This is the Navy HICOM forecast model that shows the Gulf Stream velocity will remain at about 4 knots here right on through the next 2 days and kind of just slowly dropping off a little in speed. So with that trajectory, the search is so big because we still don't know whether or not it was closer to shore, where it could be further south, or if they were out there farther in the Gulf Stream and could be off the Carolina coastline as we speak. That's why this is such a complicated search. If they were not dealing with those currents, then the search area would be much more confined than what it is now. So based on that slower speed, they would likely be probably 80 to 100 miles off the coastline of northeast Florida, southern Georgia. Then again, if they were further out there, they would be farther out off the coastline of anywhere between Wilmington and Charleston at this time, when those speeds are very stronger. Looking ahead, this is the forecast for any type of storms that might move through. We'll probably see this convective pattern where the thunderstorms will focus over the Gulf Stream. Here we are tomorrow afternoon, and you can see the models put some of those thunderstorms over the warmer water temperatures, which are about 85, 87 degrees right there in the Gulf Stream, and that could build up some thunderstorms, obscuring some of the views. And at least the seas are pretty calm as well, so it might be a little glassy at times, especially in the morning, where they could see the bottom of a white-hulled boat very easily. And even there off the Carolinas, there's just 1 to 2 foot waves there. Now, tomorrow, the weather is going to drop off a bit if they are doing some searches there off of Cape Hatteras. You're going to see the pressure gradient tighten up a bit, and what I mean by that is these yellow lines here, these are the isobars, and when they come closely packed, that's higher winds, and that would drive up the seas a little bit, but that would be somewhat temporary. As we head towards the end of the week, it looks like a cold front could be pushing south into that area, and that would also be a problem for the boaters encountering the high waves. But the wave forecast is about 2 to 3 feet wave heights over the end of the week, and hopefully they find them by then, because thereafter, after this weekend, it appears that we could be seeing a gale or some type of low pressure developing over Bermuda along that front that I just pointed out, sagging south into the Carolinas. So oftentimes here this time of year, when you get cold fronts washing out, you'll get low pressures, sometimes tropical systems, hurricanes developing along that. And this is the European model's wave forecast showing a significant swell, very large, sizable waves developing with this gale north of Bermuda, and on the order of 11 to 12 foot waves by the end of next week. So by the end of next week, they would likely be there along the mid-Atlantic, and they would encounter the gale, and those are sinking type waves for a craft that's only 24 foot in size. So we do not want to see a storm like that develop, especially if they're trying to conduct a search, and hopefully those models are wrong. But at least for the search here over the near term, there's a look down towards Daytona Beach where there's not any real significant weather, a few brief thunderstorms that flare up. All right, so as long as this search is ongoing, we'll be providing updates, weather updates for you and for those of interest. And stay tuned for more updates. We're providing on our website, on Channel 4 as well, those media updates that hopefully the next one